Now, one thing that maybe helps you relax, Ashton, I'm not sure, but I know that you're a drawer. You're a
I
bit of a
love drawing.
cartoonist, yes, and me too. Like doing a little bit of that, and I'm sure there's some people out there watching who like that. And also here at Mod, over the last 4 weeks, we've been sharing a series of comics about well-being and connectedness by local comic maker George Rex. You might have seen these appear on our socials. Next, we actually have the George Rex here for a quick chat about what being creative in this period of uncertainty has looked like, and followed by a workshop in zine making.
So, for those who don't know George Rex, she is an Adelaide based creator and teacher of comics. Her short comics, which are mainly autobiographical, have been published and exhibited internationally. And her mini comic, Harry Potter and My Childhood Obsession, was shortlisted for a Ledger Award for Excellence in Australian Comics.
She loves teaching kids how to make comics and run workshops in schools, libraries, and other organizations before all this COVID 19 got in the way. Other skills include eating pizza, playing roller derby, and singing the hits of the Muppets. So please welcome George Rex. And just a quick reminder, if you've got any comments or questions for George, then pop them in the stream chat and we'll try and get them to George today. Hi, George.
Hi, George.
Hello. Hello. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure entirely. So you've been creating a weekly comic for Mod, sharing snapshots of your experience in comic form. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into comics and zine making originally?
So I was definitely one of those really cool kids that had lots of friends and stayed at home not talking to any of them and drawing instead. So I did a lot of drawing as a kid, and when I was younger I read a lot of Tintin, and from that I just wanted to create that thing. Like, I didn't know it was comics per se. I just like, oh, this is a good way to tell a story, and I really resonated with it as a visual learner. And someone with sort of like mild dyslexia, so it was a lot easier for me to get on board with that sort of storytelling. So when I was 10, I made a comic called Menu Man. Pretty good. It was based on my friend Tom, who that was his nickname at soccer, because he'd wear like the menu sandwich board for the sausage sizzle. And so from there, Menu Man was born. And his like tagline was, he fought food with food. And he wore like a cereal box, Ned Kelly helmet style, and had a banana gun that shot great bullets, and it was very silly. And so I started doing that, and then just kept sort of making them throughout high school, and had a bit of a break at uni because I studied classical music performance at uni. So I didn't have as much time to draw then when I'm practicing playing music. And then got back into it after that, sort of getting into going along to zine fairs here in Adelaide and Melbourne, and meeting Ashton at for the zine fairs as well. And it was really good. I've always drawn comics, but it wasn't until I sort of started attending zine fairs that I really understood where I sort of fit into that sort of DIY and sort of the more zine culture aspect of comics making, which is what appeals to me. Yeah.
Thank you so much for saying that we met at a zine fair, because as I remember, I pretty much just fangirled over you. So that's very kind of you. So I've been
I was going through my zines the other day and I found yours.
Really?
Sorry.
No.
I'm very excited.
Oh, yeah, that is very exciting.
They're my favorite zine box. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what an honor. I'm blushing over here. So I've been loving the comics you've been doing for Mod. They are incredibly relatable about this whole experience. What has been the most challenging part for you creating during COVID times?
I guess like the ones with Mod have actually been, I thought they were going to be they were hard, but I thought they were going to be a lot harder because of the content and having to think about how I felt. And I kind of didn't want to. And I was putting it off, and then when I was asked to do them, it actually made it a lot easier, because it made me like sit down and think about actually how I felt, and to then like I got to have the fun of crafting it as a story, which is a different thing to just thinking about how you're feeling. Obviously, then crafting is the next bit, the sort of more logical craft for want of a better word, of writing. But yeah, it's been hard. It's been really hard. I've just not wanted to do anything. I've just wanted to chill out a lot more, and I've been drawing a lot of silly things, which has been really nice. But I'm impressed. I just feel like everyone seems to be creating a lot more than I am, and doing a lot more with this time. And I feel like I should be doing more, when really I just want to be sitting and reading, and not really doing very much, and just sort of processing what's going on. Obviously I have done some things, but it's always easier to look at someone else and go, oh, that person's doing more, and why am I not as good as them? And why, there's always that. Everyone does it, I'm sure, compares themselves to other people.
I think that's totally understandable, your response, and don't at all feel the pressure to be overly creative, or I think that's absolutely fine, to look after your own well-being. What does well-being look like to you on a day-to-day aspect?
So I've been, it was really interesting listening to Jill talking about that sort of winding down at night, because I've been really trying to pay attention to because I wasn't sleeping very well. And so I've been trying to really put in, I've been drinking peppermint tea at nighttime, and making sure I finish work I've been not looking at the computer after 7, and just reading books, and not looking at screens at all from a certain time, trying to put in these things to really wind myself down every night, which I think the thing is, I have the luxury to do that because I'm in a position to not have to worry too much about paying the rent, because I have savings, or I'm able to get JobKeeper from retail work that I do as well. So I know I'm in a very good position to be able to do that, and not everyone does have that position, but because I am, it's nice to be able to really get those steps. And the wind down has been very good, I think, for helping me sleep a lot more, and sleep better. So it was really nice to hear a professional say that I was doing the right thing. So that was good. And then just trying to be kind to myself, and other people, and know that everyone's sort of going through a tough time, and sending a couple of nice messages to friends just to check in with them, and not expecting anything back, just like, hey, you're pretty cool, nice work, you. And then sending that off, and it makes me feel good that I'm trying to do a little bit to keep in contact with people. And I don't know, I'm going to stop babbling. Too much babbling.
No, that's fine. That's perfect. And I'm sure some of those notes and messages that you've sent off to people have included a little bit of a comic, or a drawing, or maybe even a little special zine. So what do you think creating comics and zines does for people's well-being?
For me, at least, I find them they're pictures of people generally, and particularly people like myself who are visual learners, they just gravitate towards them, and they're much more instant than text, because text you have to read and process, and obviously there's then barriers between languages and how people write and things like that, whereas I think images in general, obviously there are still differences, but they're much more universal. Or can be universal in how they're drawn, and particularly cartoons and comics, because they're quite simplified, so they're very much that sort of iconograph sort of thing. So the smiley face, everyone sort of knows what the smiley face means. 2 dots and a line, the smiley face. And the more details you then start adding, the less people can relate to it, because it sort of takes away, sort of if you've got 2 dots and a smiley face, I've got 2 dots and a line on my face. I am that thing that you're showing me. But then if you start adding different hairs and eyes and skins and things like that, then less people can relate to it. So I think cartooning, because it is that simplified form, really can help connect people together. And sort of, sorry, I keep going off on these weird tangents and then not really bringing it back in a catchy way.
No, it's absolutely fine. You don't have to bring it back. That's our job. You tangent away. We are happy to be on the tangent journey with you. Now, I've been lucky enough to work in the same space where you're running workshops with kids, and it was really interesting to watch kids kind of making zines and telling stories, and I think there is something kind of cathartic sometimes about letting a story out and writing it down and having it in a form that you can kind of put it away, like you've made it, and letting go of stuff. How do you what's your response to that?
Definitely, I would agree. So like there's it's like yeah, you're right, it just you get it out of you. So a lot of the time I'm a very anxious person, and I think a lot of people that create comics are fairly introverted, or like, you know, I'm definitely sweating quite a lot right now talking to you guys, even though I know you both well and you're very nice people. But like I'm still quite anxious about you. But I think a lot of people who create comics have that sort of feeling as well, so they can get quite anxious socially, and not just people that make comics. There's a lot of people obviously like that. So they're the kind of people that sort of things go around in their head a lot. They think about it a lot. They overthink things, and it will just go over and over. So getting it on the page helps to stop that sort of loop of just seeing it in your head over and over again. So that in itself helps with that, ease that sort of pain of the loop, and how you could have done things better, how you know, yeah, like there's no point because it's already happened. You can't change what has happened. So why are you still focusing on it? But you can't stop. So if you get it out on the page and it's like, oh, okay, I've changed it because I've put it out on the page, or I could write how it could have gone, or like there's lots of different ways you can take it and what would be soothing for you as a person. And then the good thing is that once it's on the page, you can share it with other people a lot more easily. At least I find that. I find it a lot easier to craft my words and pictures on the page, hand it to someone else and go, hey, this is how I feel. And then they can read it and they can take their time to process it. And also, you know, often they'll go like, oh, I feel that too. Like Astra was saying, like creating a relatable comic. And then you can have that conversation with them about that. So that's a good way to start if you're a nervous conversation starter and you don't have a packet of pretzels. That was my go-to trick as a child. If I didn't know how to talk to someone, I'd bring pretzels along. It's like, hey, you want a pretzel? And they go, sure, cool. And then we'd start a conversation about how salty they were. I don't know. But like, yeah, it's basically, it's my way of talking to other people. And I think other people also enjoy that cathartic moment of making comics.
Absolutely. I can relate to so much of that. And I actually might start taking a bag of pretzels to theatre opening nights just to help with those awkward networking conversations. Now, so
take a packet of M&Ms as well, and then chocolate pretzels, delicious.
Excellent. I'm quite happy to become known as that M&M gal, you know. That sounds fine.
Yeah.
So what's coming up next for you? Do you have any projects in the pipeline, or even just a book you're excited about reading next? Doesn't have to be work stuff. At the moment I'm reading a book that I'm really excited that it exists and that I get to read it, by another local Adelaide author, Catherine Argyle. The Thing She Owned is the book, and it's great. I highly recommend it for anyone who wants to support another local Adelaide writer out there. It's a really, really good book. So I'm really excited about that, and that exists in the world. So that's really nice. And I just finished Avatar, The Last Airbender. That's really fun. I was really excited about that as a series. There are other cartoon series available out there for you to watch, as we said before. But so I'm sort of doing a lot of art inspired by that, and that's actually been really good and calming for my brain. There's some good wisdom in that show, so I recommend it for anyone. I don't know, I'm just excited. I'm actually really loving kind of spending time at home, and that's nice. That's kind of nice. I know it's maybe a controversial view, liking spending time at home, but I'm enjoying it. It's quite good. No, I can relate to that. As an introvert who works in extroverted jobs, it's nice having recharge time.
Yeah.
And you spoke earlier about making little zines and sending them to people, and still in this climate, what's your take on hard copy versus kind of soft copy or kind of online versions? Have you been putting stuff online as well, or is it just you're still with the hard copy and sending it via the post?
Well, I definitely prefer physical copies myself. I love the touch and the smell and the feel, and there's nothing that can quite beat it. Like, I have definitely been doing a lot more digitally. I have copies online for people because just from a practical point of view, it makes sense. And I've been putting up some of my like free sort of interactive workshop ideas for kids to do, because I just want them to still have something to do and engage with them. But I've definitely been missing like the physical in-person workshops, and I teach kids one-to-one as well, and we've been doing some Zoom classes, and they're okay. Like, I can plug in my iPad and share the screen on Zoom, which is really handy so they can see what I'm doing, but it's just not quite the same as like having that really like natural conversation and chatting to them and having a good old natter about what kind of pens we like and things like that. Yeah, I'm just a sucker for the smell of paper and then like the feel of a pen on paper. But I definitely, and I've been one of my regular monthly workshops with kids that I run, Inky Fingers, I've sort of made as a postal pack, so kids can sign up and I'll post them out, a little thing, but I've made digital videos for that, so they like, yeah, that's really fun. That's been an interesting challenge to put that all together. But it's a very different, it's been like a sort of tool, what is it, 360? Is that how many degrees transition? Or 180? Oh, maths was not my specialty. I was definitely a drawer in my maths class. From doing pretty much everything as a physical medium to online, and it's been like learning a whole new art form. So I'm sort of getting there. It's a bit clunky and old and a bit slow.
I totally understand and relate to that as well. And that sounds great, getting the box, the kit. That's one nice thing I've found, is being home when like a package might arrive. It kind of feels like, oh, because usually you might just find it. But yeah, it's like, but getting a package of a zine workshop would be very exciting.
Absolutely. Are they just for kids, or do you sometimes do them for grown-ups too?
Yeah.
Asking for a friend.
Anyone can sign up. Anyone can sign up for these.
Yes.
Yep. So I definitely had some adults sign up for the last one. So
that sounds great. I've always been a big fan of anything tangible and pen pals and things like that. So that feels like a fancy pen pal.
Yeah.
That's exciting. And so along with that, is there anything else? Where would people check some stuff out? Where would you suggest they look to find out more about making a zine or comic art?
Well, feel free to look at my stuff. I have things on my website. So there's georgerexcomics.com, and that's George Costanza, as in Costanza, Rex as in dinosaur, comics, what we draw. Sorry, it's a terrible name, I realize, when you say it out loud. And also that name goes for all of the social media, so you can just Google it and it will pop up with pretty much anything that I'm associated with. But there's lots of cool stuff out there. So Carclue also has stuff going on, like always, like kind of pom-pom through Carclue. My other one I was mentioning before was Inky Fingers Comics Gang, which is the postal packs I've been doing. Yeah, and I also post on Inky Fingers. I try and post some like things that people can do as well, and on my websites I try and connect people with opportunities. So if they're up and coming comics makers or zine makers and things like that, I often will try and share those opportunities as much as possible. I can't think of anywhere. I think Auckland is doing an online zine fair at the moment, Zine Fest. So you could check out Auckland Zine Fest. I think, again, just on their Facebook page, Auckland Zine Fest. And I think there's workshops and interviews that you can access online. I think that's the one that's happening at the moment. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That is going to go look up all the things. Well, thanks so much for coming in for a chat, and also for your workshop, which is coming up next.
That's right. Thanks, George.
Thanks so much, George.
And we're going to chuck up as many of those links that we can find to all those great things that you mentioned there. They might come up in the video during in the chat during this workshop, and maybe afterwards in our final thoughts. But thanks for joining us, George.
Thank you. Good to see you.
And now
Bye, you too.
we are ready to throw to the zine making workshop that George prepared. So hopefully that'll get some creativity flowing at home.
Hi, my name is Gina and I'm also known as George Rex, and I have been making comics for Mod for the last month, and I'm looking forward to teaching you how to make a mini zine yourself so you can go off and make your own comics that I can't wait to read. So enjoy. A brief guide to zine making with George Rex. What is a zine? A zine is a homemade or self-published book. It can be about anything you want. There are lots of types: collage zines, poetry zines, fan zines, auto-bio zines, illustration zines, comic zines, and heaps more. There's lots of zine styles: foldy, concertina, half-page, stack and wrap. You can bind with staples or sewing or rubber bands. Today we're going to learn how to do one of these little 8-page foldies. You will need a sheet of A4 paper, a pair of scissors or a blade, and something to draw with. Step 1. Fold your paper in half. A good way to get a nice sharp fold is to match the corners up and then press against the table. And fold in half again. And remember, match those corners up for a nice clean fold. And finally, fold in half one more time. Step 2. Open your paper all the way out and flatten it against the table. You should have 8 different sections folded. What we'll be doing is we'll be cutting an incision in the middle of the paper. This will help us fold the zine later. Now, with a cutting blade and a cutting board, you can make a cut as indicated previously in the middle of the paper. Make sure you are a responsible adult if you're using a cutting blade. If you are not a responsible adult, try using scissors. You will need to fold your paper in half again, and you're going to cut along your middle crease from the folded edge of your paper. Cut to the center of the page. Step 3. Open your paper out flat. You should have a little mouth in the middle, and then fold lengthways, crisping up the edges. Squeeze your paper together, bringing it all to the middle. It'll be across initially, and then you'll flatten them like that, and then fold around to create the covers. And now you have a zine template. You have 2 covers plus 6 inside pages for you to write down a story or a diary or anything you really want to turn into a zine. Now comes the hard bit. What are you going to make your zine about? There's so many different choices. It could be absolutely anything. You could do a comic, or write some poetry, or do some collage. Here are some ideas to get you started on your first zine. A list of your favourite things. Recipes you've tried to make and failed at. Dogs you've petted. A diary comic of what you've been doing in isolation. craft projects you've started. A zine that teaches people about the craft projects you've started. A fictional story about mysteries and magic. An illustrated collection of your coffee cups. Haikus about public transport. I hope you guys enjoy making lots of zines. Here's one I made a little while ago about my birthmarks. As you can see, it's a regular comic zine all the way through. But if you open it up flat, it has a secret poster on the other side. This is another nifty thing about these foldy zines. You can double-side them. When you have finished writing or drawing your zine, you just have to open it up like this and photocopy it to make the copies. So cool! Happy zine making!
That was great. I'm really inspired. It was nice seeing something about like a hard copy thing. Like I've been doing lots of digital stuff, so really nice to I'm definitely going to go and make 1 or 100 of those very soon.
So many useful tips, because I've definitely dabbled in zines before and I have never been able to figure out how people do that awesome fold that George just showed us. I've always been messed around with sticky tape and glue and staples at the very last minute. So that is going to completely change my world. That was brilliant.
You had like an epiphany, an aha moment.
That was my Oprah aha moment.
There we go. On Mod TV. Yeah, maybe we're the new Oprah. I'm not sure.
Well, I didn't want to be the first one to say it, but well, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a great show today, chatting with Jill Dorian and George Rex. And if you do create any zines, don't forget to tag Mod, because we would really, really love to see them. And I'm sure George would as well.
And thanks to Hen, Kat, Pete, Becky, Natalie, and Claudia working behind the scenes today. We'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. with another edition of Mod TV featuring Laura Jean McKay in conversations with Jessica Alice. Laura's new book, Animals in That Country, is what they'll be talking about.
Awesome. And in the meantime, if you'd like to see more of what's happening here at Mod, you can head to our website, mod.org.au, or check out our Facebook or Instagram. Thanks so much for joining us. See ya.
See ya.